Okay, I think we're finally live. I got a new camera set up and I'm having a hell of a time getting it all figured out. Oh, there it is. Okay. And also there's the leg. I need to find a different surface for this table, like a tablecloth to pin it down or something, but I at least have this paper to work on versus the shiny table. So there's that. It doesn't look too crooked. It's okay. We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. Okay. Yeah. Everything fell apart. All my stuff was dying or broken or crappy or, it wouldn't be a creep show crafting stream without some technical difficulties. Hope audio and everything is okay. I actually have a bunch of these papers. I don't know. I like to pick different ones. Too bright, maybe. I would try to bring the camera down lower, but I can't with this rigging. It's like as low as it goes. Yeah, it's as low as it goes. Anyway, let's do this thing. I'm going to bring back that blue paper. Oh, actually, we have black. No, that's not black. Anyway, we'll do the blue. Just so we have a background of something to look at besides just table. Oh, hi. Yeah, it looks really crooked because I can't get everything straight. I'll have to mess with that on a different day. Like, figure out if there's any way to shorten this up any more than this. I think that's as low as it goes. Now the phone's falling out of the holder. This is so much fun, fucking with all this crap. I have to wait for the lag so I can see where it's at. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I think tonight we're going to talk about the Dyatlov Pass. Oh my god. I had this already in my mind. Everything was going to go so smooth. I do this every time. Anyway, Dyatlov Pass, very, very famous mystery case from Russia. Good coffee. 1959. Oh man. Sorry. I get really quiet because I was trying to think of like, how can I adjust this? How can I get this and trying to figure out. I need to practice. I need to like get the camera and stuff set up before I actually start streaming. So, anyway. Soviet Russia, 1959. 9 students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute College. Most of them are engineer students or had been recent graduates of Ural Polytechnical Institute. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I'm just looking at the notes that I had written because I wrote 2 different notes. The picture of them is actually, the thumbnail is actually the picture of the hiker group. This is too bright. I cannot deal with this. Everything is fucked up. Everything's at an angle and I'm weirding out over it. I might grab a tablecloth. Just because I'm tripping. I didn't do my intro. None of the stuff. Whatever. You know what? Fuck it. But I'm not looking at that the whole time, so hold up. Okay, I think I found something. I think it's technically a pillowcase, but we're gonna make it work. Because that's how we do things here in Discordia. Okay, maybe not a pillowcase. Looks like a table runner. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be the new. It's gonna be the new backdrop for today until I find a more permanent setting for this. And everybody who's ever done YouTube, they know that the setup is crappy. Like getting used to doing it. I know a lot of people actually delete their first few streams just because nothing goes as planned. Yeah, that's a lot better. This will work. We can work with this. All right, cool. Okay then. So 9 students, 1959. I'll read off the names. Please pardon my Russian pronunciation because it's fucking Russian, that's why. I wrote them all out here and I did not write a pronunciation. So you have Igor Dyatlov. He was the leader of the group, the one who organized the expedition. The reason they were actually going on the expedition was to get what they called a grade 3 certification. Back in the Soviet days, they had different classifications for hiking. That was one of the things that was really popular in Russia at the time was they actually called it like tourism. So if I say the term tourists, I'm referring to the hikers because that's one of the terms they use. And so level 3 was like the highest experience grade that you could get at the time. I can't remember the exact qualifications for it, but it was pretty much like the hardest class to obtain. You had to go like so many miles out into the wilderness, like without human contact, and for so many days, and hike so many miles over like differing terrain, including like what we would consider like hard mountain climbing. So that's what they were doing, and they'd all done just so many hikes. They were completely experienced. Igor Dyatlov actually designed a camp stove to be used inside the tent. And so they were all just very, very well prepared. They had everything was mapped out, planned out. They had their food set up. Everything was set up. I wish I could bring that down lower. I wonder if I can zoom in. I don't really want to touch it because I know if I touch it, I will mess it up. Nope, it didn't work. Okay, anyway. So Igor Dyatlov was the organizer. Everybody I'm going to list was between the ages of 20 and 22, I believe. 22, 23, except for one person, and I will separate him out when I get to him. So number 2, we had Yuri Doroshenko, and there's a lot of Yuris in this story, so a lot of the time I'll refer to them by their last name. Ludmila Dubanina, Alexander Kolovatov, I believe that's right, Kolovatov. They probably called him Sasha. Every Russian dude I ever knew that was named Alexander, they call him Sasha. Zenaida gosh, I could, when I'm doing this like practice, I can rattle them off like it's nobody's business. But the second I'm live, done. It's just done. Zenaida Kolmogorova. Oh, that was a good one. Okay, I got it. And then there's Yuri number 2, Yuri Krivonashenko. Rustam Slobodin. I can't even say it. Rustam Slobodin. And then there's, oh my god, this isn't even a Russian name. This is a French name, but I cannot pronounce it. Nicolas Thibodeau Brignon? I have no idea how you even pronounce that. And then the last person that started out on the expedition was Yuri Yudin. Now, after when they got to the town and like they started hiking and stuff, Yuri Yudin actually had some back problems and sciatica and stuff that started flaring up. And he's like, listen, you guys, I cannot do this. Like, I have to go home. And they're like, well, that sucks, but okay. So he actually left. So Yuri Yudin started this expedition with his 8 friends, and he ended up turning back, and that pretty much saved his life. But in the same town, right on the edge of what I call humanity, they picked up a 38-year-old veteran named Semyon Zolotorov. Zolotorov. I can't even. Oh my god. Semyon Zolotorov. I can't do it. Okay, Semyon. It's Semyon. But so he was significantly older than the rest of the group, and he's just some random guy who's like, "Hey, I'll come," and they're like, "Okay." So they all leave this last town. Like they had all their stuff with them. They had a mandolin. Um, I didn't write down which one of them plays the mandolin. I don't think. So they go out. Everything was going according to plan, and then there is bad weather starts rolling in. So they're going a lot slower than they had originally planned to. And I just can't not laugh at myself about that. Okay, what I'm gonna pause that story for just a second here. And I'm going to talk about what I'm gonna do with this crafting situation. This lighting is just terrible. I'm gonna scroll through the lighting and see what there is. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta mess with some of these settings too. I say it every time, but I'm like, oh, this will go a lot smoother someday. We're gonna get everything taken care of. I also apologize for the huge gap in between streams because I got sick. I had a bunch of stuff going on. It was just a bunch of shit. Whoa, that's awful. Yeah, that's about the best option that we're gonna have. So we'll just roll with it. So what we're doing tonight for this craft, and this is something I have not tried before. Probably not a great idea to have this nice little table runner on here when I'm going to be working with UV resin. I have these rings that I'm going to, these are kind of like the practice rings. These are just cheap junk rings I got from wherever. I'm going to try to see about sizing the rings down to make them smaller, putting UV resin on the inside and curing it, and then seeing if the rings fit a little bit tighter. I want to practice on some of these junk rings before I do it to an actual real decent piece of jewelry, just in case it doesn't work or it looks weird or whatever. And then after that, I don't really have anything planned, but we might go through this old photo album that I found. All right, so these guys go out and they start their hike, and the weather was so bad they didn't end up making any sort of time at all. It ended up starting to get, and I believe it was actually, don't quote me on this, the information's out there. I actually believe it was the first night that they left the last town that they were in when this mysterious event occurred in the late night, early morning hours of February 1st or February 2nd, 1959. So they go out, they didn't make good time. The weather was really bad. It started to get dark. And then you have, they're in, the blizzarding wilderness of the Ural Mountains. I did not write the name of this mountain down. Quetzalcoatl? That's close, not quite. The English translation of that actually means Dead Mountain. That's where they were at. And the only reason they called it Dead Mountain is because there was no game there. It was just like desolate wasteland of ice and freezing, and the dogs just knocked something over out there. So everybody that makes a big deal about them calling it the Dead Mountain is just like, whatever. That's not what they meant by that at all. Okay, I have 2 different UV lights. I'm not sure which one will work better because they have different wavelengths on them. So they set up the tent. Everything looks normal at this point from what people afterwards have deduced. You know, they had the stove in there. They had eaten their dinner. They had all their stuff set up as if it was just going to be a regular night. And at some point, something happened. Now, Igor Dyatlov had told people, this is going to be like a 14-day expedition. It's probably going to take longer than we think. So, if we don't make it back within so long, like, don't worry about it. So people didn't really start worrying until, I want to say, the 16th of February. The 20th is when they started sending out search parties to look for them. And on I believe it was the 26th of February, 1959, they found the tent. And when they found the tent, everything inside looked pretty much undisturbed. There was a lot of snow on top of the tent. Everything inside was pretty much undisturbed, except they had cut their way out from the inside of the tent. So instead of whatever happened to these hikers, they did not they didn't go out the front door. They literally cut their way out. And it was like a forensic analysis or whatever. She had been like, she looked at it and said, "Hey, this tent's cut from the inside. They cut their way out, and a lot of their winter gear, most like their food, most of their winter clothes, their jackets, their shoes, everything was inside. And so whatever freaked them out of the tent, they came back. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. They came back when they left the tent." And they descended down the mountainside in an orderly fashion. So the footprints that were found didn't show panic. It didn't show chaos. It just showed them walking like almost single file down the side of the mountain. So whatever was the threat inside the tent was no longer a threat. Yeah, I can't put this on this cloth. This is a messed up situation. I just need something small to put it on, because I do not want to get this UV resin all over this tablecloth. I know there's something over here. Probably put it on the back of that. Yep, that's gonna do it. So orderly fashion out of the tent and down the hill. And they did not find the bodies on the first day. The first bodies that they found were down the mountain a ways by a group of cedar trees. I actually had a diagram written up for this. This isn't going to work either. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to spread this on this ring without making a big old mess of it. The first 2 bodies that they found were the 2 Yuris. I guess you can't really see it, but there definitely is a little layer inside of there. Probably going to do it in several layers, just because it will kind of build up. So the first 2 bodies that they found were Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonashenko. They were both under the tree. They were both severely underdressed and had, I forgot to silence my phone. I think it just made a noise. They were severely underdressed and had been moved post-mortem. Now, their cause of death was considered to be hypothermia in the official documents. And there are a huge list of injuries to each person. I am going to touch on some of them. but there are numerous abrasions and bruises and fractures. I'll touch on the most significant ones. But so these two guys were found underneath the grove of cedar trees, and they had had a fire, and there was a lot of broken limbs off the cedar trees. It also looked like someone had climbed the tree, and they had sap on their hands. So they either got that from trying to climb the tree, or they were breaking off branches to make the fire with. I am assuming that when they passed away from hypothermia, that somebody else took their clothes, because half the people weren't, like, one person was wearing one shoe and half the people were like half naked. So I think they just took whatever they could off of these two guys after they had passed away. Let's see here. The next person that they found was Igor Dyatlov, if I'm remembering correctly, or it might have been. See, and I wrote down all these last names, and I don't know why I wrote them down by the last names. I know the Yuris are hard to. Zenaida Kolmogorova, they found her, I think, next. I think Dyatlov was the fourth person that they found. Huh. I thought I wrote these down in order, but I don't think I did now. Anyway, the next three people that were found in, I can't remember which order because I suck like that, was Igor Dyatlov, Krivonashenko, and Kolmogorova. Fuck. And all three of them were found in, not exactly in the same, they were like, it looked like they were heading back to the tent. They were found between the cedar grove and the tent, each one a little bit closer to the tent. And each one of these next three people, there is a fly in here. Their causes of death were also labeled as hypothermia. Let's see here. I don't know why I wrote down Dementors with a star next to it on these. These notes are from literally like a year and a half ago. But I mean, these guys, they were a little bit better dressed, but not really. It looks like they were going back to the tent, whether it was to get supplies or, I mean, I don't know. We don't know what they were trying to go back for, but they didn't make it. They didn't make it back to the tent. Each one got a little bit farther before they collapsed and then froze to death. And a lot of the people that when they found their bodies, they looked incredibly, like Dyatlov, he just looked like normal. There wasn't a lot of decomposition because it's, the middle of winter. So he really looked like he was just laying there in the snow, but he was unfortunately deceased. And those were the only people that they found around that time. Excuse me. And then we're going to fast forward a few months. So actually, wait, let's go back. So they take these, sorry, I'm doing math in my head, 5 hikers back to the city, and they do the autopsy, and the coroner was just like, hypothermia. I didn't write down all of the injuries because I said I wasn't going to, and I didn't, but there was a lot of them. Most of these guys just had some small, like a lot of abrasions and that kind of stuff. One that is of note is that Krivonashenko, who was found under the tree by the fire, had burns on parts of his feet, probably from trying to stay warm, or maybe he passed away with his foot too close to the fire. But one detail about his body that I always found really disturbing was he had apparently bitten off part of his own knuckle. So they found flesh from one of his own knuckles in his mouth. And if you see something going by, it's me holding my coffee. Nightmare Before Christmas mug. I don't know, I'm kind of dropping a lot of my like preset persona and all that stuff. This resin is probably melting all over the place. Anyway, so what happened to this guy that made him literally bite part of his own finger off and die with it in his mouth? Did he, like, was he trying to keep from screaming? Was he trying to stay awake? We don't know. I'm not sure which one of these wavelengths will work better for this. I can't even tell which one is which on this one. Okay, this one isn't the one that changes wavelengths, so never mind. I hope it works. Anyway, so now we are going to fast forward to sometime in May. Oh, I waited too long and it dripped all over. See, that's why I wanted to practice this on a kind of a cheaper, kind of a cheaper piece of jewelry that I didn't really care about. Because it built up and it's all uneven under here. I don't think you can even see it, but when I was blabbering, it settled. And so I could grind it down, which I probably will do. Anyway, let's add another layer. So come May, one of the native peoples from the area called the Mansi, which we'll talk about them here in a little bit, actually found a little ways away from where the tent was, down by a stream, he found like a den dug into the snow by this creek or stream or whatever you want to call it. And inside this quote unquote den were the final 4 hikers. One of them, I believe, was right outside of the den, as if he had been trying to get to it I'm not sure exactly whether he was trying to get in or they drug him there. But we will. Oh, Slobodin. I forgot to talk about Slobodin. He was on the way back to the tent too, and he had a skull fracture that was non-lethal. See, I always miss something because I was like going down the list in my mind and I had separated them. Anyway, whatever. This is a really complicated story and I'm really struggling with streaming. I don't know if it's the change in the format because I can't see myself, which I'm used to being able to see myself, and that was part of, I guess, my shtick was like I'm more expressive with like my facial expressions, and I talk a lot with my hands, which I should be showing so people have something to look at besides just nothing. I don't know. I digress. So down in this ravine, in this den, they found Dubinina, the one I can't say, Zolterio, Zoloteryov. Gosh, that's so stupid. Not the name. I mean, like me, I cannot pronounce these names. So Zolteryov, Dubinina, Kolevatov, and that Thibodeau Brunier. I've never even heard that name pronounced. Every time, I don't know if I forget it or if a lot of people don't pronounce it or what. But these guys had more severe injuries. Dubinina, I believe, she's the one that people tend to fixate on the most, just for the simple fact that when they found her, and some of this is easily explained, but some of it isn't, she was like leaning up over a rock, like a natural rock ledge, face down, and there was some meltwater running over her face. But what everybody fixates on is the fact that she had no eyes and no tongue. So her tongue and her eyes were missing. And remember, there's no animals here, so this was not a scavenger situation. But simply the fact that the running water was running over her face, I mean, that would explain the eyes to an extent, but the tongue is and also part of her hypoglossal tissue, which is like the like the muscles and mass underneath of your tongue. And that's a pretty big piece of flesh to just decay away. I mean, I feel like it would shrivel maybe, but the whole thing wouldn't be just entirely missing. And I have seen the postmortem photos of her. Those ones are a little bit more graphic. You can see the empty eye sockets. You don't really see too much to do with the tongue being gone. But you can see that part of her cheek is exposed, so parts of her lips were gone too. And they also found, and I didn't even write this down, but I do remember this because it scared me. Like, this stuff scared me really bad when I first heard this. She had, I believe they said about 100 milliliters, which really isn't that much, of reddish brown fluid in her stomach. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm not used to doing stuff while I'm doing this. This is a big adjustment, and I might even delete this stream and redo it and just record it as a video because I'm really sucking tonight. And it's not like there's anybody really watching besides my one dear friend who loves me enough to watch my shit. But I might re-record this and I need to learn how to do editing too, because then I could come in and just cut out a lot of this crap. Anyway, so the reddish brown liquid in the stomach, they didn't specify that it was blood. They just said a liquid. Okay, that could be anything. I mean, that's just really vague. I like this mood ring, but I never wear it because it turns my finger green. I was hoping that if I put some of this resin on the inside of it, and I kind of want to try a different tool. This is one of those little silicone. Oh, I love you, dear. Because I'm your best friend. I want to try a different tool maybe and see if I can find something that works better. I love these little silicone things for most of my resin work. It's just amazing. I don't even remember where this came from, if it came with a kit, but this is like the best tool ever. But I think I'm going to try something different because I'm having a hard time spreading. And maybe when I go to a thinner ring, maybe this will work. Yeah, maybe it will work better. Let's just go ahead and keep trying it. So she also had, missing eyes, part of lips, facial tissue. I might as well just read straight off my notes. Who gives a fuck? Like, and this happens a lot because I try so hard to like do this. Like, I want to have the persona, the shtick, like everything to be perfect. And you know when I finally started getting a tiny iota, that's right, iota, of viewership on my old channel, it was when I stopped giving a shit. And I'm just like, listen, here I am, all ratchet and shit. Let's talk about some disturbing shit. And just like went 100% in myself as myself. I don't know. This crafting thing is kind of cool, but like I have a hard time actually talking and doing this stuff at the same time. I might actually try. I should sit down and do some of these crafts while I'm just talking or practice talking to myself so that I can get more accustomed to actually working while I'm speaking. Because I digress all the time anyway. Whether like I'm just sitting here talking with not trying to do anything else, I get distracted so easily. So when I'm trying to like tell this story in a cohesive manner and try to do something with my hands at the same time, it's like an ADHD nightmare. I have not been diagnosed with ADHD, but that's kind of, if I did have it, that's what I imagine it would be like. Multitasking like that, not my thing. Anyway, okay, so she also had major chest fractures. She had multiple broken ribs. I didn't write down how many. Was it her that? No, I think it was her who had. It was either her or one of the other guys who had so many broken ribs that they actually That's right. One of them had actually pierced their heart, and I don't remember which one it was. So then there's Zolotaryov, and I believe it was Kolevatov. They were sitting back to back. So like spooning, one guy was the big spoon and one guy was the little spoon. But they were just the people in here. Did I say cohesive? I don't know. I just go and I don't even pay attention. Um, all the people down in here were messed up. Like they had some serious injuries, and the coroner said that they looked like they had suffered a motor vehicle accident. So these aren't like they didn't just fall down 5 feet. They didn't just like trip and fall over a stick and sustain these injuries. These are like you are majorly jacked up, like you have been in a high speed collision. So Zolotaryov, and again, he was the oldest of the bunch. He had major chest fractures too. His eyes were also missing. Kolevatov had, and most of these people there was only, I believe, if I am not been mistaken, only one person, I love you too, only one person was deemed to have died of something other than hypothermia. One of the people, and I cannot remember which person it was, died from, I think it was the Thibodeau Brignol. Brignol? Yeah. He actually had major skull damage. And I think his was the one where they actually said skull trauma was the cause of death. But everybody else's cause of death was hypothermia, despite some of these significant injuries that were so bad. Like Kolevatov, they said that his neck was deformed. And to me, that I take that as like it was twisted or it was broken or something. And it's been a long time since I did the specific research on the injuries and looked at the postmortems. And the fact that they died of hypothermia really doesn't surprise me, considering the temperatures on the night that they had passed away was -13 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit. So think about that. The winter temperatures where I live are usually at the very, very, very coldest that it gets here. And I mean, like, you just get a few days, maybe like a cold snap week of this is like -10. Every year we get like a week of that. And it is fucking brutally cold to the point where you like when you go to get in your car, you feel like you're gonna die. Like literally, I'm going to freeze to death to get into my car. And this is like 10 degrees colder than that. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Oh, and then, so like, yeah, everybody else, I mean, everybody was just, all the people down in this den, in this ravine they were just jacked up. So that was when they found the final 4 hikers. They took them back. And so the mystery is what exactly happened to these guys. So again, and I had a diagram drawn out and everything, even though it was pretty crappy. Actually, let's do a new one. Let's pull out some paper here. We're gonna get old school like a little kid. You're gonna see my art skills here, which are non-existent. It would also help if I had a writing instrument. I guess I have this marker. That'll work. Fuck what? All right, so here we are on the side of this mountain, okay? And it's not a very good mountain. We'll just actually ignore that line. So here is our tent. Lovely. Which was cut from the inside. And everybody came out and they walked in orderly fashion down to this grove of trees, right? And then there's a fire here. So that's my little fire. And then we find our first two deceased individuals laying next to the fire. Very, very underdressed. Someone had taken their clothes. And some of the clothes, and it seemed like when all the bodies were found, everybody was wearing like piecemeal, like this chick was wearing this guy's clothes, and then he had on like 4 of old girl's socks. It was like, I don't know if maybe they grabbed a handful of stuff as they were coming out of the tent. Yeah, seriously. And there's so much lag, I have a hard time knowing what people are responding to. There has to be a solution to that I just haven't discovered yet. I will probably ask another YouTuber that I know that did live streams for a little bit of advice on how to manage, if there's a better way to manage lag, because I'm using the cell phone and the cell phone is above. The only way for me to see the chat in live time is if I literally like stand half up and look at it, and I still can't see it because of the mount thingy. Okay, so we have Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krovanoshenko. Both of these guys are under the tree, underdressed. And then the next people that we find are going up the hill, going back towards the tent. You have, actually, that's not a bad indicator, because when they found Kolmogorova, I want to call them by the first names. I don't like calling them by the last names. It sounds so formal. Zenaida. When they found Zenaida Kolmogorova, oh my God. You know how much I've practiced these? For years, I practiced these names, and I cannot say them. Zenaida. Zenaida. I actually know somebody named Zenaida, so that helps. She was laying on her side with her knees bent, kind of in the fetal position. When they found Igor Dyatlov, he was laying flat on his back with his arm, like he was in like, and I'm stealing this from another YouTuber. He said he was like in the Superman pose, where like, you know, when Superman goes to rip his shirt off and he has his hands like bunched up under his shirt. It looked like that. He just looked like he just flash froze. I mean, he was like incredibly preserved. And so then you have Dyatlov. I believe he was in the middle. And then Kolmogorova, I think, was the closest to the tent. I mean, I guess the order doesn't really matter. And then there was Slobodin. So these guys were coming back to the tent. They had originally been down at the grove there. Actually, we are going to keep this line. And we're going to use this as our ravine, except for it was more farther down. And the den would be on the other side. So I'll draw that. And this will be our quote-unquote den. And these are the people that they found like in May. And so you have, I can never remember which person they found outside. Okay, it was Kolevatov they found outside of the den with the neck that was deformed. And then you had Lyudmila Dubinina. She was kind of like bent over this rock. And then you had the 2 other dudes laying front, like chest to back, like they were supporting each other. So that's kind of a really pitiful, horrible drawing, but that's kind of the situation there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, I got everybody. Sometimes I forget somebody and I leave one of them out. But when the coroner did the autopsies and they put the cause of death out there, the cause of death was hypothermia, but he said that it was caused by, and here's the quote that is so disturbing to me, a quote-unquote compelling natural force which the tourists were unable to overcome. Like, end quote. What the fuck does that mean? What is a compelling natural force? How did they know it was a natural force? I mean, compelling natural force which the tourists were unable to overcome. And then that's where the speculation starts coming in. Even at the funeral, they held a group funeral for all the people that had passed away. And the KGB was there, like, creeping on everybody that attended. What the fuck was the KGB doing there? Creeping, that's what they were doing. So there are theories. There are theories coming out of every orifice. And I'm just going to list off. I actually made a big list here. And here we go. Avalanche, Yeti, wild animals, the native Mansi people, infrasound, drugs, aliens, the stove catching on fire, military testing. Oh, there's more I didn't even put on here. Katabatic winds. Where's the other one? I had a list on this one too. Let me make sure I got them all. There's so many theories. Katabatic winds, infrasound. Where did I put the list of the theories? Okay, yeah, I got them all. At least all the ones that I have heard. So I can kind of break them down just a tiny bit. Let's go ahead and cross the ridiculous shit off the list, all right? Yeti attack? Probably fucking not, okay? Aliens? Probably not. Drugs? They were not found to have any drugs in their system, nor did anybody know them to be people who used drugs. And that includes alcohol. They did have a small container of alcohol with them. It was for medicinal purposes and was not used. Like it was just a small container of spirits. So they obviously weren't hammered and killing each other. And that leaves us with some other more practical theories. Like, here's some other ones we can rule out just based on logic. Okay, wild animal attack. If a wild animal attacked these people, they would not just be, there would be signs of it. Like, they would be bitten up, they would be, they'd be partially eaten. They wouldn't have these major crush injuries. They would have tearing and lacerations and stuff like that. Okay, and also there was no animal footprints, nor were there any footprints of any other people. So the native people to the area, named the Mansi tribe, had been completely friendly to Russian people. There's no indication that there was any sort of altercation with them. Now the thing is that this Mount Quetzalcoatl, I think that's wrong, the dead mountain, quote unquote, that was actually a sacred mountain to the Mansi people. And the hiking group had also taken photos in a cave that was a sacred area to these Mansi people, but they had not desecrated it in any way. They hadn't stolen anything. And the number one reason why I think that this was not an attack by any native tribes was no footprints besides those of the hiker. And also, a lot of these injuries were like huge crushing injuries that a person would not be able to do. So I'm crossing the Mansi off the list. They're peaceful people. There was no footprints. I mean, I would assume that if a group of native persons attacked a group of hikers, that they would, I mean, and this is like 59, so there was probably guns. They would have shot them. They would have stabbed them. They would have chopped them with an axe, shot them with an arrow. There was none of that stuff. So now we're left with what we have left on our list. We have katabatic winds, an avalanche, infrasound, a fire inside the tent from the stove that Igor designed and had caught on fire before, just for the record, and military testing and or accidental, military shit. Like maybe they got blown up. All right, infrasound. Infrasound is, how do I explain infrasound? It is a set of sound waves that are so they're not audible to the human ear, as in you can't hear them. I wish you guys could see me. I hate this. Infrasound isn't audible to the human ear, but your body does pick up on it. Like, so your body knows you're hearing something and can react to it. Most people who hear infrasound and are bothered by it, they get like maybe a sense of doom or dread, or maybe they get it might make them upset to their stomach. Maybe it'll give them a headache. It doesn't. Number one, it doesn't cause ridiculously huge crush injuries to a person. Oh, this one, I think the battery's about fried on this one. It doesn't cause crush injuries. It doesn't make, and only like, I think the number, and don't quote this number, it's not precise. I think only like 70% of people, no, 70% of people do not react to infrasound anyway. So for the chance of some infrasound testing or even naturally occurring sound, yeah, the battery's no good on that. But that's why I have a second one. For that to be the case, it's just not feasible that 9 people would be significantly affected by this infrasound to the point where it drove them mad, and there would be no way for them to inflict those sort of injuries on each other. All right, so let me cross that off. I'm going to physically cross them off the list. So infrasound is off. Now it's out of there. So now we're getting down to the ones that really start to make a lot more sense. You got your avalanche, the stove theory. Okay, straight up, the stove catching on fire might have made them run out of the tent, but injuries, crossing off the stove. So we have left katabatic winds, avalanche, military. Okay, katabatic winds. And I actually wrote this down because I didn't know the science behind what katabatic winds are. Katabatic winds, and I'm going to read off my notes directly because I suck like that. They're quote unquote fall winds. They blow down a slope because of gravity. They form at night during clear skies. I can't even read my own handwriting. I should have been a doctor. Air at the top cools faster and becomes denser. Okay, so it kind of makes the air like the air at the top here, and then the winds, like when the air becomes denser, it swooshes down. So they're like, it's basically like a tiny mini, in my mind, I think of it as like a little tiny hurricane, like, or like a derecho, but not on a big scale. It's just like a gust of wind, a big gust of wind. What am I doing with this marker? I don't need that. It's a prop. I just have to hold something in my hand. So katabatic winds also, like, they might knock somebody over or knock something on top of them, but it will not cause a person to be injured like that. So a lot of it boils down to it's either something that couldn't cause these significant injuries or something that couldn't, like, it wouldn't affect all of the people. There's no footprints. There's no evidence of anything else. So now we're left with the 2 theories of military interference, whether it's an experiment or whether it was an accident, and the avalanche. The military theory makes a tiny bit of sense because there actually was a military base not too far from where they were located, and the KGB was involved with that, and they also admitted, I had this too close to the black light and it solidified it on there. They also admitted that they were doing air flybys and bomb testing and stuff during the time frame of all of this happening. But they didn't find any shrapnel. They didn't find anything destroyed besides the tent had collapsed. There was no destroyed trees. There was no fire, no shrapnel. So it's pretty much like, unless there was some sort of ridiculous, And I actually did hear a really good podcast, and if I ever find it again, I'll have to credit them for putting this out there. They did say that the military in Russia was experimenting with a certain type of bomb that it didn't exactly, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't like a fire bomb or an explosion bomb. It was like not a sound wave, but like a percussive wave, which I guess is a type of sound, but and so that almost makes sense, but not quite. It just, nothing really fits. So then we are left with the avalanche theory. And now in 2019, I believe they reopened the case because the families and Yuri Yudin, who never stopped pushing to find out what happened, just did not accept this garbage of a compelling natural force. What happened? Yuri Yudin, and I remember this quote, I didn't even write it down because it really messed me up, because he says, and I'm quoting this in English because I can't speak Russian, if I could ask God one question, it would be, what happened to my friends? There's the crying. It always comes. What happened to my friends? And Yuri Yudin did die. I believe it was 2013. He was age 77 years old. And they buried him with his friends. At his request, he wanted to be buried with his friends. And so there's a big memorial that has all their pictures on one side, and then Yuri Yudin's is on the other side, which I think is kind of lonely, but that was his request, to be buried with his friends, and I'm really grateful that they were able to honor that. So the avalanche theory used to be that, I mean, there was no sign of a major avalanche that had happened in the location. Sonic boom testing, close. It's close to that. I can't remember the exact term for what they used. I can't remember the exact term they used for it, but it's close to that. See, that didn't. It feels tacky still. I don't know if maybe my battery isn't great. I actually have one of those little space alien orb blacklight things to cure resin with, but I didn't want to mess around with trying to plug it in, and so I just used little flashlights. They work. It just takes longer. So they used to think that the slope of where they had the tent at was, I believe they said 18 degrees. Don't quote me on that. And I know I say that a lot, but pretty much it was assumed that the slope that the tent was on was not steep enough for a avalanche to occur, and there was no evidence of an avalanche. But here is where it gets interesting, because there is a type of avalanche called a slab avalanche, SLAB, slab avalanche, and they can happen at degrees as minimal as, I believe that I read, again, the numbers. I need to really write these numbers. It's always the numbers that I can't remember. Numbers, dates, and names. As I think it was 12 degrees slope. A slab avalanche is basically like a big chunk of ice and snow just fucking falls off the side of a mountain, and it just, so instead of being like, the typical avalanche that you think of where it's like rumbling snow falling down, a slab avalanche is like a big fucking chunk of ice and snow that just pretty much just drops off. And if you think about that, with the injuries that a lot of these hikers sustained, the crushing injuries, the skull fractures, the broken ribs, at one point they said it was like getting an SUV dropped on them. A slab avalanche is like a really big item falling on you. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of details that aren't explained by that, like, where did all the lacerations on their hands come from? Why did so-and-so have, and so here's my theory. So the official cause that was determined in 2019 or whatever was that it was a slab avalanche that caused the hikers to flee from the tent in the first place. All right, so here's my theory. Here's Mia. Here's Mia's timeline of events. Hikers go to bed. They're not camped in an ideal location because of the urgency of the weather. Hikers get slab avalanched on. All right, this worked well enough. I think that, yeah, that's definitely tighter. I'm going to try it on the actual ring now. And if I destroy this actual ring, well, somebody can just buy me a nice new one. So hikers go to bed. At some point during the night, with the weather being bad, slab avalanche falls on the tent and partially crushes it and also causes crush injuries to several of the hikers. Okay, I'm going to get a drink here. Fresca. Delicious. Okay. Hikers freak out. What just happened to us? Something just crushed us and it sucks big time. They're freaking out. It's dark. Everything's partially crushed. The stove is probably like sending smoke out all over the inside of the tent. They're probably coughing. They're like, oh, this sucks. We got to get out of here. I can't find the door. And so somebody grabs a knife. The tent was partially crushed. But it's weird. If you look at the pictures of it, you'll see there is quite a bit of snow on top of it that could have broken up. There really wasn't a lot of snow, but you don't know how dense it is. You don't know if that snow is like half ice or if it's just snow. So the tent was knocked down, and it did. I think part of it was still sticking up, but a lot of it was crushed. And that would make sense because some of these hikers barely had any injuries at all, but other ones were really fucked up. And I don't even care how I speak now. This is just how I talk. So somebody cuts the tent open. Everybody staggers out. They're like, we're naked, whatever. And I think a couple of the guys actually had a lot of clothes on, and they're thinking that maybe they had gotten up to take a pee or something. No. That's a valid question. It really is. So people are wondering if if they were either on a watch duty or if they had gotten up to take a pee, because a couple of the people were actually pretty well dressed for they wouldn't be sleeping in the clothes that they had with them, but a lot of the other people were basically naked. So they cut their way out of the tent. Whoa. And then they're looking at it and they're like, oh man, this just happened. So then instead of panicking now at this point, they're calm because they know what happened. So they say, oh, all right, let's walk down here because maybe another avalanche is coming. They don't know. So they walk away from the tent, but they're not running, right? They're not panicking. They're not freaking out. They get down to the group of cedar trees and they're like, hey, you guys, we're in deep doo-doo here because it is well below 0 Fahrenheit, way below freezing, and they're half naked. So they get some branches off this tree. Maybe they climb the tree to look and see what's around. They get a fire going. A couple of the other people are like, we got to go back to the tent and get some supplies because we're not going to make it out here. And again, this is my headcanon for all this. So in my mind, so they go back up, and it is just so brutally windy, and it's not only freezing cold, it's not like sunny and mild weather. It's like the middle of the night with these blasting winds coming off the side of the mountain. This is you'll literally die in minutes out here if you are not protected. So they go back up to the tent and they collapse one at a time on the way back to the tent. The guys below, I don't know, and here's where it kind of gets murky for me. I don't know if the 4 people who went to the den, the quote-unquote den, I don't know at what point that they did that, but they had serious injuries. They had to have either been drugged there. I cannot remember which hiker it is, Deep doo-doo. Yeah, deep doo-doo. So here I am, like, dropping F-bombs all over the place, and then I'm like, yep, deep doo-doo. But some of these people were really messed up. So I don't know if maybe some of the people before they went back to the tent went down to help dig this den, or if it was a partially natural formation in the snow and they just had to dig a little bit. But I mean, they were obviously trying to get out of the elements. They had taken clothing from the two fellows that had died by the fire because the other people were found to be wearing their clothing. That's a point that I forgot to talk about. There was some radiation found on two of the people, and everybody wants to make a huge deal about this radiation. It was on a sweater that belonged to, and I cannot remember which person is which. No, it's gonna drip. Bloop, there it went. I can't remember which person it was specifically, but one of these guys worked at a nuclear power plant that had melted down like 2 years before, and he had assisted in the cleanup. So yeah, there was radiation. There was radiation all over the place. Like, and they didn't have a lot of the same protection that we do now, and he had assisted in the cleanup. So yeah, there was radiation. This is the third biggest to this day. Thank you, Lore Lodge. Shout out. To this day, this is one of the worst. It's the third most severe nuclear meltdown in history. So the radiation is totally explained. It wasn't caused by aliens or anything like that. Drag marks? Honestly, I don't know. I don't remember hearing anything about drag marks. Chernobyl is the number one, but this one was like the number third. But it's Soviet Russia, and they covered that shit up, like, because they didn't want to mess around with that. So that radiation stuff is just it's a what they call a nothing burger. I mean, it's just details that people are like, this freaked me out because they had radiation on their clothes. Yeah, they did, because they were in a nuclear fucking meltdown. All right. So the guys died by the fire. The other 3 died on the way back to the tent, and the other 4 died in this den because they were just so injured they couldn't hike back down off of that mountain if they tried. You know, like, the people that were in the den were better dressed because they had taken clothes off of their fallen comrades, but they were just so injured there was nothing. And they spent, you know, how long waiting, even if they had supplies, but they didn't have their tent and warm clothes. They're there for, like, you know, nobody came to look for them for. This happened on the early morning of the 2nd. Nobody even came to look for them until the 20th. And they had cached supplies on the way, so, like, that they would need on the way back, so they didn't have to carry all their stuff, everything one way, and then carry it all the way back. They had, like, made a collection of it to pick up on the way back. So they had, like, they did not have the supplies to do that. They, like, it just, they were just fucked. I mean, they were fucked. But for some reason, to this day, this still remains very unexplained. And a lot of the injuries are unexplained, like, even by oh, that cured fast. That little drop I dropped right there, solid. Like, one of the girls, I didn't write down which one, had no, it wasn't the lady in the ravine. It was the one on the way back to the tent. Where'd she go? I lost her because I only wrote down the last name. Komorgorova. Zenaida. She had, I'm pretty sure it was her. She had, like, a linear bruise that looked like a baton had struck her. But there was a lot of abrasions and busted knuckles and stuff that looked like maybe somebody had gotten in a fight. But these guys, like, this is what they did for fun on the weekend, you know what I mean? Like, they went out into the wilderness all the time. I don't know how fresh those were, but they could have, they could have got that like busting branches to make the fire. Maybe they got in a fist fight. Maybe they were pissed off because they're like, Igor, you son of a bitch, like, this is all your fault. You brought us out here. And then maybe they fought and punched each other a little bit, I mean, these are Russian dudes. No offense to Russians. I'm just saying they're pretty hardcore. And I know, I've talked to a few Russian guys that's what they like to do. They'll fist fight for fun. Anyway, like, I think a lot of the smaller injuries are explainable. They just don't quite all fit into the smooth picture that people want. Like the thing with the missing tongue, that is weird because it doesn't specify if it was like surgically removed. And if it was decay due to moving water, wouldn't there be some pieces of it left? It just doesn't seem like that one to me is a little strange because if there's no game, there's no animals that are eating it away. And this water, even though it was melting, it was running water, but the temperature was still below freezing to the point where the entire tissue shouldn't have decayed that quickly. And then there's the one guy who bit his own knuckle, part of it was in his mouth. Was he just trying not to die? Like trying not to lose consciousness when you're freezing to death? There wasn't any sign of paradoxical undressing. There was none of that business going on. Even though some people didn't have clothes on, it's because other people took their clothes, or they just didn't have them in the first place because they're still in the tent. So it's just this big, I did not present this well at all. I apologize for that. But it is an incredibly crazy story of, I mean, this kind of sets the framework for, there's actually another incident in Russia of hikers going into the mountains and something crappy happens and I don't want to say that I quote unquote like better, but there's a second kind of incident that happened in, I believe, 1994 that was also very terrifying and also unexplained. And I have talked about that on one of my old channels. And it is like a real mystery. But the only difference with the next case that I'm not going to talk about today, but I will soon, is that there was a survivor. There was a witness. And what she saw that day, like, I don't want to be cliche, but it haunts me. Like, I didn't hear her actual physical description of what happened because, number one, again, don't speak Russian. But I've heard a translation of it, and it is just horrific. And again, it's like the coroner labeled it as something weird that it clearly was not. It was like hypothermia and protein calorie malnutrition or something, which, like I said, that's a whole nother story, but it's basically, again, the Russian government is like not wanting to deal with the bullshit. And they're just like, yep, hypothermia. Okay, that's what they say about everything. Like every single person didn't fucking die from hypothermia. I mean, maybe some of these people probably did, like the guys under the tree. They weren't super injured. Hypothermia seems very likely. Okay, so, and the people going back to the tent, that's pretty likely. But of the 4 people that were in that ravine, and they had such major injuries, and only one of them died of a traumatic injury, like, it just feels like a cop out to me. Oh, and also the government sealed the records immediately afterwards. They were like, this is all classified now. Everything's classified. Thank you. I think it is partially like the getting going. Everything is so awkward because once I really pick up the speed on it, I feel like I do a lot better. It's sort of the intro. I think I need to do like a silent intro where I'm not actually live, but then I just kind of like practice first. This sounds ridiculous. Like it's like I have to stand in front of the mirror and practice my fake smile. All right, so let's test out this ring. But that other story is actually, that feels quite a bit better. I do want to smooth it out a little bit. I have some very fine grained sandpaper. I'm probably going to sand it down just enough to get it to where it feels more. Actually, it'll probably smooth out on its own to where it felt. It's not, because it's not rough. It's not like jagged or anything. I never plugged in my phone. I wonder how much charge I have. It doesn't say, so we are gambling here, folks. And this is just the stretchy stuff. But the second incident that I'm talking about is I always say it wrong. They call it the Korovina incident, and it was on the Kamar Daban mountain range. Practice with you? I fucking could. Like, legit. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, I know you're basically the only person watching now anyway. It says 2 people watching, and one of them is me on another account, like on my laptop. It's you and me, babe. But that'll pick up. And I know these are kind of crummy, and you can say they're not, but I mean, I don't feel like they are exactly what I'm looking for in my own stream. A lot of it is technical difficulties that always come up. There's always something. I think I'm ready. I have everything I need. Oh, laptop's dead. Where's the cord? I don't know. The camera mount is too high. There's no surface to work on. The lighting is messed up. There's always something. There's always some crap. And then there is another case, and this one is actually in the United States, in California. Very, very interesting case that is commonly referred to, and this is one of my favorite. That's right, babe. You're great. It's commonly referred to as America's Dyatlov Pass, and it's also called like the Yuba County. God damn it, the Yuba County Five. Yuba County Five is a 5 quote unquote special needs gentlemen who disappeared on their way back from a basketball game into the mountains, and most of them passed away under mysterious or disappeared under mysterious circumstances that didn't make a lot of sense. And there was wild like sightings, and like, spoiler alert, one of the people disappeared and was never seen again. And that is also so these 3 cases to me are like, it's like the trilogy of mysterious deaths / disappearances. The Yuba County 5 one is especially sad to me because these were, and I've talked about this one before too, but I will obviously do it again because I just love talking about it. And I say things like I love it or whatever. I find it interesting, and I am enthusiastic to discuss it. But I really hate the fact that this stuff happened. It's not cool. Like, these 5 special needs guys who are just the sweetest guys in the world, according to everybody that knew them. And there were some of them, yeah, I'm your best friend. They were pretty high functioning. A couple of them even had jobs. A couple of them could drive. It's just I don't know. It's just really sad that they just died, like, or disappeared under such mysterious circumstances. One of them even died with enough food near him to last all 5 of those guys over a year. But he never ate the food. He literally starved to death with food within feet from his body, but he never ate the food. And I have theories about that. So I have so many shows. I know we had originally planned to do a special on the grieving process. And I was going to actually do like a pet cemetery kind of recap review in conjunction with the discussion of ineffective grieving, because if there's a story about grieving that you did not handle well, Pet Sematary would be the one. And I took a lot of notes. I refreshed it. I listened to the whole book on audio. I flipped through the physical copy of it. I watched both of the movies. I watched the 1989 or 1990, which can't remember which year it was. I watched that one twice. I watched the remake most of the way through because I decided that it was really it's bad. It's bad. The remake is bad. Don't watch it. Oh yeah. I have a list that is 1,000 miles long for topics, and I add to it like every single day because I think of stuff that some of it's kind of going to be like just a mishmash of topics. It's not always going to be a mystery. It's not always going to be true crime. It's not always going to be medical stuff. But it might be. I mean, it might be book or movie reviews. So yeah. It might be real life stories that I have personally lived through. It might be stories from people that I know. I mean, basically what you're not, unless it's a book or a movie review, you're not going to get a lot of fiction here. Like, this is going to be quote unquote true things. And I'm speaking just to a wider audience in general. Not when I say you, I don't mean like specifically you. I mean just the broader you. That it'll be interesting. It is going to be an interesting ride. The format might change. I might get rid of the crafting element at some point and go back to kind of the way that I used to stream that I really enjoyed, which is where I actually show myself, and I do mean you in some ways. And then that's the reason why, because I never planned. I mean, it was always on my list. Like Dyatlov Pass has always been on my list, but it's been done to death. Everybody talks about Dyatlov Pass, and I didn't want to be that cliche person. But when I heard that you, specifically you had not heard of this, I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is one of the most well-known mysteries, like, ever. And I cannot not talk about this. There's also a couple of, I'm saving some other topics for later on once I'm more used to the streaming, because it's something that, it's a couple of things that are like these stories that are really near and dear to my heart. And I want to do them the justice of, number one, having more experience under my belt of doing more live streams that are, it's harder when I'm doing this kind of format where you can't see me. It goes a lot more smoothly when I am just sitting here talking, and you can see me, you can see my face, you can see my hands. It really adds a different element to the stream. But there's face doxing and I might be recognized, but which is whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so there are burning topics that I do really want to talk about, and I'm waiting until I have, number one, more experience and things go a little bit more smoothly. Like, and on my last channel, I had about 6 episodes before I finally got into like what I consider to be the real groove of it, to where I'd still have technical issues, like I would knock over my phone, or, I'd have to like pause it and go cry a little bit. Not really like pause it, but like go blow my nose because I'm crying too much, because I always cry. The crying is ridiculous. Just that kind of stuff. But it just felt like it went much more smoothly. I could plan out the stories a little better. And then I took this big hiatus from streaming. And I felt like because I changed the format, it kind of derailed me. The DC Sniper, that actually is not, I'm familiar with the case, but not really familiar with the case. It's not one that I've done a deep dive on. It's not one that I could wing. I couldn't wing it. Like this story, besides the names and dates and who was found where, I could have pretty much winged this story. In fact, I kind of did, because my notes are just awful. Here's a little sample of what my notes look like. They are awful. Like, it looks like a doctor's handwriting. It's just scribbles and dust. Oh, there's like, here's some of my notes from Final Fantasy VII House. That's on my list. That one I definitely want to wait, because that is a near and dear to my heart story that I want to wait to do. Oh, I never did this one, but I wrote down a lot of notes about internet safety, especially for children. And it actually had links. And then these were the Dyatlov Pass notes. And then I'm pretty sure I have all my notes for all my other stories in here too. Oh, Dr. Kermit Gosnell. Oh, he's a wonderful piece of shit that you'll learn about. Jack Kevorkian. Oh, there's the Nestle notes that are upside down. And there's another notebook floating around somewhere that has notes in it too. And I don't know why I saved the notes. I can't even read them, but I just think it's really interesting to look back and say, hey, there's the notes. So yeah, this ring feels like it is quite a bit tighter. I might add a tiny bit more. It's just not quite where I want it. But if my finger swells even a tiny bit, I won't be able to get it off. And I'd rather not wear it at all than have it stuck. But I do worry about like changing gloves in my profession and like pulling my ring off and not noticing it and accidentally throwing it in the trash. All right, let's pull out. I wish I had, okay, so I don't know how much battery I have left on the phone. So if for some reason I guess I could just plug it in. That would be a solution. So if anybody has any topic suggestions for me, you can leave them in the comments and I will write them down and look into them. I mean, there's literally probably 200 things on that list as of this moment, but I will certainly take into account suggestions. And if it's okay, I'm gonna do this in a joking way. It's not like I'm not being serious when I say this. What is it? Strange, dark, and mysterious kind of topic. That's kind of my jam. So, in fact, that's another thing. I had heard about this on Mr. Ballin, right? And it's oh shoot, I can't remember what it was called, but it's like the Death March, where these Russian dudes were poisoned by the Germans and they knew they were dying and they're like, this is fucking bullshit. And it was in the war. They're like, we're dying anyway. Let's fuck them up. And so they go over there and so it's like literally these dudes who are getting ready to die and they just go in there like just unhinged and just, yeah, I love Mr. Ballin too. I would like to, I'm not going to put them in the description or anything because I'm lazy. I'll admit it. Some of the resources that I used for this stream, besides just remembering the details of the case from years ago or whatever, I watched it's a free documentary on YouTube. It's called, oh shoot, I lost it. Compelling Natural Force. Oh my god, it's a documentary. It's like unknown compelling force or so. Oh man, I might have to put it in the description because I cannot remember the actual name of it. It's a documentary. It's about an hour and a half on this case. I also watched, the channel is called The Lore Lodge. The Lore Lodge. They have a big cohesive, because they originally did it in 3 different pieces, and then he like combined them all. They combined them all together, all the parts into one big episode that's like almost 3 hours long. And I watched that like twice over the last few days. So you see how much research I don't know if you call it research. It's just listening, but I learn better by hearing than looking. And so, but if I don't write down, even if I do write down names, dates, that kind of locations, that kind of stuff, I lose it, or I'll be like, oh, I'll remember that. But then when I'm like, quote unquote under pressure, I don't remember it. Like, if I were to tell you the same story off camera, it would like, I'd probably like do a really, really good job. So there was that. There's just a couple. Mr. Ballin had done an episode about the Dyatlov Pass. I believe it was a pretty short one, maybe like 20 minutes. And there are literally, if you just go to YouTube and type in Dyatlov Pass, like there'll be just hundreds of videos that pop up. Another resource that I used, and this is for the people who are pretty hardcore because this is so thorough, you can't even believe it. It's literally dyatlovpass.com. Dyatlov.pass.com. And they actually have I didn't even talk about the photos and stuff. The photos are also a nothing burger. It's like, there's a mysterious figure in the background of this photo. No, it's just another one of the hikers in the background. Don't be stupid. All the photos recovered off of their cameras were there. You can look at the journal entries, translations, caution, postmortem photos are there. They're not horribly graphic, but they're not, like you don't want your fucking like 10-year-old looking at them or anything. It's just incredibly, incredibly detailed. It's every time I look at that website, I can't even believe how detailed that it is. I wish I could look at I need to make my list into a physical thing so I can look at it while I'm streaming. That's the one thing about streaming from your phone is you can't use your phone. And we don't really think about how much we quote unquote rely on our phone until we can't utilize it. I actually tried I had bought a camera and a microphone, and they weren't high quality, but they weren't like super cheap. They weren't like the cheapest cheap, but they weren't like super expensive either. I think it came to like $125 for both. But the thing is that my laptop USB ports are all screwed up, so everything would cut in and out. And then the sound quality or the video quality, something would always be screwing up and dropping off. And one day I'm like, I'll just try streaming from my phone. And the lighting on it is better, like the sound quality was better. I mean, just the streaming from the phone was much more, it seemed higher quality than the microphone and camera that I was using. Also, for some of the time I was using another person's hand-me-down streaming stuff. So like every time they would upgrade, I would get their like used microphone. There was nothing wrong with them. It's just like they were upgrading to better equipment. So there's that. But I'm just thinking about the list. A lot of the stuff on the list is like medical stuff, like different psychological conditions, like Frigoli's delusion and Cotard syndrome, Alice in Wonderland syndrome, mental stuff like that. And then there's some that are combinations of the two, like pica, where you eat things that aren't food compulsively. And then there's some other stuff like encephalop. God dang it. Lethargica encephalop. Is that even right? Sleeping sickness. Sleeping sickness. I know it's something lethargica, and I cannot remember the first word. And then like rabies, prions. You want to talk about some horrifying shit, man? Rabies. People don't think about rabies that much, but it is something that you do not want to get. I just heard the other day the number of rabies survivors ever recorded throughout humanity's history is up to like 14 now. But every single one of them was left with significant physical and mental disabilities. So like rabies used to be considered to have a 100% fatality rate, and now it's like 99.9999999% fatal. And even if you are one of I believe it's called the Milwaukee Protocol. That might be wrong. I'm just pulling that out of my weird recesses of memory. When I go on these, usually at the end of the streams, I go on these like stream of consciousness babbling baloney where I just talk about whatever comes to mind. Yeah, but rabies, dang. Pretty much if you get rabies, just put your head down between your legs and kiss your own ass goodbye, because you are fucked, my friend. All right, let's do something else. let's look at this book. I want to look at this book. And again, I will go ahead and give the official goodbye because I don't know how much charge I have, because even though I plugged in my phone, I don't know if it's actually charging because I can't see it. And half the time it's screwed up because it's crabby. It's actually busted. The battery does not last that long because I have dropped it so many times. The back of it is shattered. And half the time the charging port doesn't actually charge it. Alice in Wonderland syndrome is very strange. It's actually more common in children who have fevers. And I have not deep dive researched this, so this is kind of a off the cuff, just remembering what I know about it. It is where people's perception of things, the size and dimensions of things, I can hear a cat meowing. The size and dimension of things seems wrong. And one thing that's different about Alice in Wonderland versus other, I need to put my hands in the frame because I do gesticulate a lot. I don't even know if that's a real word. I make it up. I don't care. But I should do it where people can see it because that gives them something to look at. So I'm sitting back here with nothing under the camera, making all these hand gestures, and I'm like, maybe you should see those too. I kind of want to raise this up a little bit more so that we can get a better look at this photo album thing I'm looking at. But I'm scared to do it. So let me try to bring it up and then put that down. And I really don't want you to see me because I look fucked up right now and I'm like wearing my pajamas and stuff. But Alice in Wonderland syndrome, the proportions of things seem off. And one thing that is different about that versus other delusions is that the person knows it's not real. So in like Cotard's syndrome, for example, or Cotard's delusion, they really believe that this is a thing that's happening. But in Alice in Wonderland syndrome, they're like, this isn't reality. This is, why am I seeing things this way? It's not real. But things will seem either like they will have the perception that they themselves have shrank, or that other objects have gotten bigger, and it usually goes away on its own, or like once the medical issue has resolved. All right, so here is a photo album, very similar to another one that I had looked at the other day. It's not the plastic on the cover, it's more like a cardboard, very worn on the edges. The spine also is missing a piece. It's very grungy. There's a lock of hair falling out of the top of it. This latch is busted. But that's okay, because this actually is not from my family, but from somebody who had married into my family. And I found this in a hoard, and I thought we would look at it together. But I need to figure out, because there's a lot of glare. I don't know how to get that glare off of there. Let me try turning down the brightness. Maybe that'll help. Well, not a hell of a lot. Let's see what else we got here. Mode. Ooh, the quality of the light is terrible. It looks like the original light is the best one that we have. We'll just keep it there. Munchausen by proxy. Oh, that's on the list, and you better believe it. There is quite a controversial case that is technically on my list that I will not be speaking about until the most well-known alleged case of Munchausen by proxy. I'm not even going to bring up the name, but I'm sure you know it. Nothing is as it seemed in that case, and the perception that I held about that case for a long time ended up not quite being what I thought it was. So that's quite a controversial take. All right, so it says album, and this looks like it's like made out of what's it called? Like the gold, not gilded. That's where it's like on the outside, but it's like, it almost looks like gold foil, not gold foil, because it's very, very, like it's textured. You can kind of feel it, but not really. And then there's some empty pages here. And this is pretty damaged. I mean, there's a lot of pieces that are falling apart on it. It actually smells pretty musty. But this is the type of photo that I was talking about. They are, and I actually looked these up before I start, almost right before I started streaming tonight. You're intrigued by what, the case that I'm talking about or this photo album? These, I cannot remember what they're called now, but they are quite collectible. They're actually very, very thin photos glued onto a piece of like cardboard. And some of these handwriting I can't read. This, something, the age from 1 to 80 years old. A lot of these, if you look on the back, they'll have a mark, or sometimes it's on the bottom. I just learned about this. The case I'm talking about, the name of the person, and I know you know this case. Gypsy Rose Blanchard had her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, killed her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. Very, very famous case. Like, I remember the first and last names of the people involved, so that's how you know that I like really remember it. And then that case, people feel a way about it. It's very divisive and very kind of controversial right now because of things that have come out. And nothing is the way that it was presented at all. So the whole thing, I have to come back to that on another day. That one's going to be a whole, might even be more than one parter. And Munchausen by proxy, though, there are a lot of other cases of it. I put her name. Her name's actually on the list. Not Gypsy Rose, but this other person I'm thinking of because I can't remember her name. She had 8 kids and killed them all. Just gross. I hate this woman. But I don't know. Okay, so this doesn't actually say what family it is on it. Unless it does, and I just can't make it out. Then we have these old, let's see, what's this? Craig's Hauser's self-service food market. We offer, list your grocery list below. And it's like printed off. Look at the prices on this. We have Velveeta, 2 pounds of Velveeta, 75 fucking cents. Are you kidding me right now? That thing's like $7.99 now. Let's see here. 4 rolls of toilet paper for 29 cents. Dang. 49 cents a pound for frying chickens. Chicken hasn't really gone up that much. Ground beef, 35 cents a pound. Yeah, that's back in the day. All right, here is another. Okay, here's a more of a, and I cannot remember the name of these photos. I want to say cabinet photos. I don't think that's right. They have the scalloped edges, and then the photographer's like logo and name and stuff down on the bottom. These are actually very collectible, apparently, and it doesn't say the person's name on it. I don't know, and I don't recognize any of these people. This fly is just chilling right over here, and I want to get it so bad. Like old, and I haven't looked through all of this, so this is almost as new to me as it is to you. Mrs. Bell. No clue who that is or where that is. Now you have this photo here. I'm not going to try to take it out. It looks like it's the same type of photo as the ones we just looked at with the logo there. These ones too. And these are, I mean, some of these have some damage to them, but these photos are actually really good condition. I mean, these are in really good condition. J.B. Kent, Queen City, Missouri. You know what this reminds me of? Get Elon on that shit. Good luck. Actually, I mean, I'm not his biggest fan, but I feel like he might actually be a person that would at least finance that shit. These remind me of postmortem photos. Legit. This infant here might be sleeping, might not be. And there's nothing written on the back. So it's not so much the photo album itself that I am so intrigued by here, except it's the photos. These appear to be a different type of photo. I don't know how to get these out of here without damaging it. Like, I want to look at them and look at the backs of them. I shouldn't touch the front of it either. But I don't know how to get them out without damaging it. I might do that on another day when I can just sit there and... Because it looks like you slide them up from underneath right here. Oh, see, here comes this one. Hogle and Astley Sunbeam Gallery. Watseka, Illinois? They used to take photos of the dead. Yeah, I actually have a... I'm in some, like, morbid, dark crafting journal groups on Facebook, and they listed a bunch of those, and I saved them. I saved a couple of them to my phone. They're morbid, but they're also so fascinating. And one way that you can sometimes tell if it's a postmortem photo is that it used to take so long for people to get a photo taken that the people who were alive would be slightly blurred from trying to hold the same pose for so long. But the person in the photo that was deceased would be very clear in the photo because they're not moving at all. That's just a disturbing fact. See, I have no idea who these people are. Hattie Kent. Nice to meet you, Hattie. You see, okay, and this looks like a different type of photo because I'm not an expert on photos, but I was looking up like the different styles and types of older photographs. And a lot of them you can tell by either by what paper they're printed on and what the colors look like. I can't get that out of here and I'm not going to push it. These are something else and I can't remember what they're called either. Again, I just started looking this up. When they're this size, they're called something specific. But these people look quite elderly. Oh, here we go. Rachel Michael something October the 13th, 1798. That can't be right. Born in October 1798. Okay, that makes more sense. Was something born in March the 21st, 1806. So these are pretty old. I mean, if this lady was born in, 1798, and she's pretty freaking old looking here, not to be mean or anything. 1798, like this could be from like 1905 if she lived to be 110 years old. So this photo here is actually pretty freaking old. It just doesn't actually say when it was. Isn't that cool? I mean, it's not in great condition. Like there's some dirt and it's faded, but it's really not that messed up for how old this is. They do smell kind of moldy though. Not moldy, but like musty. I like looking at the back of the pictures to see. Here's an old textured postcard from. It doesn't. I wish you the best of health in life, and trouble may never cross your way. Something, brother. Blah blah blah. Oh, it's a birthday card. This is one of those postcards I was talking about. The way the texture is, and it has the gold, not gold leaf. That's not. Oh my God, birthday, right? Totally. This is not a card that's opened. It's a postcard. Even if these are written on and not in great condition, things like this are actually quite valuable today. People collect these like crazy. Again, even if they're written on. And the way you can tell some of these older cards, if it doesn't have a date on it or anything, it has the texturing. It has the golden. A lot of these old postcards are worth like a ridiculous amount of money. I'm actually going to set this aside because I think I'm going to reverse Google image that and see what comes up. See, this says May 17th, 11 a.m., but it doesn't have a 1917. Okay, so this does have a date on it. This was mailed in 1917. Look how old these are, dude. Isn't that amazing? 1917, this was mailed. United for Victory postcard. Let's see what it says. Wasika, Illinois, May 17th. Dear Brother Andrew, we're sending you this card as a token of our good wishes for a happy birthday. That guy's dead as fuck now. So if the card does not, we received Rose's letter. It is warm and pleasant, and farmers are planting corn. Jack and Hattie. Everybody named in this postcard is dead. But, I mean, this was from, okay, this was mailed in 1917. But does this need to be reversed? Is this the right way? I mean, these cards are just, they're, I mean, like I said, they're not in pristine condition, but they are so, in my opinion, well preserved. Here's somebody's wedding, looks like. Doesn't say who it is or when they were. Aww. This is definitely heavier paper than what we use for photos today. Oh, these are photo postcards. Oh my god, photo postcards. These can be very valuable. It's not written on, not in great condition, but not horrible. Photo postcards are very, because they're personal photos, they are hard to price. So a lot of the pricing for those depends on, I know this channel is like going off the rails because now I'm talking about like collecting and selling and antiques and vintage, and but I from what I've learned is a lot of these old photo postcards, it depends on the age obviously and the quality, but the actual image doesn't really mean too much as far as collectability goes. This one is a little bit grimier, but the photo is pretty clear. They're not, a lot of these aren't really bent. This one has a little wrinkle in it. I find this stuff to be so incredibly fascinating. This guy looks like he's a, no, I was going to say it looks like he's a soldier or something, but that's not a soldier's uniform. Look at those shoes. Oh, there's another one. And most of these are not written on. Oh, this one is. Suit blue by blue. Blue by blue. But like this photo to me just seems so, and the way it shines blue like that, I think I'd have to do more research on that, but there is a certain type of photo printed that when they shine blue like that, it means something else, but I can't remember what it was. These two are the same. Help if you want. Oh, you mean like researching them and looking them up? I just think that's just, I'm just fascinated by this older like history stuff. These are people I never met. Okay, remember me saying that there was like war photos and stuff? Here's one of them. This is one of the postcards, the photo postcards. This one's actually in better condition than most of the other ones. I don't recognize the uniform. I don't know what year this is, what war this is, what country this is. I'm assuming America. But this is one of them. And here's another one. Another postcard one. And when I hold this stuff up, I have to like see how close to hold it. I'm not used to working with the camera like this. Okay. This, I'm not going to try to take that out of there, but that's pretty faded. And I just love looking at the old pictures of the farms and stuff. Picture taken in 1912. This is a picture of the farm home of 3T and Hattie Kent, north of Watseka, Illinois, taken from road west of house. Silo is east of barn, and hen house is southeast of the house, both out of sight in the picture. Okie dokie. Oh, these. Okay, I just learned about these little tiny pictures too. But I don't remember the details about them, but I remember reading about them. Like that some certain types of photos are based on the size. And just, okay, I do remember, okay, the last time that I looked at this photo album, I remember turning to this, and this photo right here cracked me right up. Look at Granny with her shotgun, dude. I freaking love it. I can't get over it. Well, it's oddly specific. And I don't know whose hair this is, but this book, this red hair looks like, I have no idea. I have no idea where that came from. Yeah, some sort of Yuletide card. There's just like so much weird random stuff. Okay, these are, I cannot remember what they're called, but these are extremely collectible. These are some of the older photographs when they put them in the little case like this. I cannot remember what they're called, but they're just very, very tiny in a little case, little frame case thing. Something. There's just a bunch of notes and little cards. And I wonder if this one, does this open? This doesn't open. So I don't know if it is, this looks chewed up, like it's been chewed by a mouse or something. It doesn't open, so I'm not sure if this went to something else or if you're supposed to write on the back. It's not a postcard. Rudolph something. Age 7. Oh, and I love it when I find little envelopes like this because it's like Christmas. It's like, surprise, here's a present for you. Oh my God, this is one of those. And it is in incredible condition. Wow. Wow. I'm fucking impressed by that. It is in such good condition. No clue who these people are. But this is very, very, I'm going to set that one to the side. A bunch of little photos, like, it's just, it's amazing. I'm so excited by this stuff. Like, I can't even, that's a piece of ribbon. A note to a teacher. I like the style of these, how they're all crinkled up. Anna Bass, age 18, 1898. Taken February 18, 1899. So this is 1899. This is from 1899. That's like over like 125 years ago, man. I'm just, and my math is not great, so don't hold me to that, but 125 years ago. Incredible. Aww. What happened to, do they make these postcards anymore? That guy has a powerful beard right there, buddy. Let me bring it up a little bit. Yeah, like some of these, oh, she has the Princess Leia haircut, kind of. So yeah, some of these are so well preserved. And you can tell that, and you can't really maybe tell it on this phone on the screen here. I hear puppies outside the door arguing, playing. The different types of paper are you can tell that they're different from different years, like when they were made, when they were printed. These up in the corner here, it's actually a metal. Um, those are some of the older photos that tended to last quite a bit longer in better condition, unless they were like left exposed. And this isn't like a greeting card or anything. It's just like a little card with a saying on it. There's a bookmark to my dear mother. That's just like a card you would put on somebody's thing. So there's all these different photos in here and cards, and I just think that's just incredible. And so some of these photos might be worth actually. I have no real emotional connection to them. They might be worth either looking into, seeing if a museum wants them, like locally, not like a fancy museum, but like just I don't know. Some of them are maybe like the military stuff, maybe. And I have military stuff coming out of my ears, but and some of the more antique, just I don't know. I'm so fascinated by these, like I call them relics of history. Just it's just so amazing to me. I mean, these are just they're amazing to me. I am so glad that I found this in a pile of trash. I tried to reverse image search a long time ago. This album itself, could not find it. At least not one very similar. It's not in great condition. I just wanted to see if I could see, like, I've heard that some of these albums are valuable. And I think this latch can actually be fixed. I think it's just popped out of true and just needs to be bent back because the pieces are all here. So yeah, that was a fun little trip into somebody else's history people I don't even know. And I actually have like several boxes of old letters from the 40s, cards, more photos from the war. I have like war bond money from Korea from like fucking 100 years ago. Just crazy crap. And it's just really neat to see what kind of stuff. Like there's one thing, what's it called? It's like a safe passage card that they gave to soldiers so they didn't get their shit blown off when they went to Korea. All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap this up. And for anybody who actually ends up watching this long, especially my lovely moderator, Miss Tired of the BS, I really appreciate you, girl. Thank you so much for supporting me in my streaming endeavor and being my solo viewer. But hopefully we grow and improve and kind of take it from here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next time. I guess I've kind of learned not that I should not plan ahead, because the thing is the last stream that I did, I said, in 2 weeks, we're going to do this stream. And then 2 weeks came and I'm like, this happened, that happened. I didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I was planning on it and then I did something else. So it's like this, when I say something, it never comes to pass. And so let's just not make a plan. Let's just kind of play it by ear. If we have any craft suggestions, I have a ridiculous amount of like journal making stuff, scrapbooking stuff, resin stuff, beads, jewelry, ribbon, buttons, stencils, inks, stamps, everything you can think of just about crafting crud. So, if there's any craft suggestions, or if there are any, the animals are rampaging out there, like tearing the house apart. Topic suggestions, leave them in the comments, and I will see all you losers later. Let me see if I can shut it off without smashing my phone. Bye. Maybe.